both my parents are artists, and I grew up in their art studio, and my mom said I had very early experiences doing art by taking off my own diaper and making murals on the wall. So that's when she knew that I was going to be an artist.
Okay.
And my work's been shit ever since. So. We used to have family dinner, and after dinner or mealtime, we'd clear off the dinner table, and we just get old newspaper, old newsprint, butcher paper, and crayons, and we'd all just draw. My dad, my mom, me and my brother, and my sister later, when she was a little older, and we would just have art time.
Cool. So it sounds like they encouraged you to become an artist. Did they encourage you?
Yes. My dad, not so directly. He had an art studio, and he would do his big paintings, and I would just kind of draw on the wall next to him, and he would kind of like test his airbrush and clean his brushes on the wall, and I always, not so much, I mean, I loved his canvases, but I also loved just the random stuff he would do on the walls, and I would draw on the wall, and then once a week he would whitewash the wall just to clean it and start over. But they encouraged it. At an early age, they threw the television out of the house and said, whatever art supplies you want, we'll buy for you, and we'll spend our time going to galleries, because that's what they enjoy doing, and buying you guys new art materials. So we learned etchings and lithography and silk screening and painting and welding and sculpting and just whatever.
Yeah. But when did you first start silk screening?
Early junior high. Couldn't really afford to get nice clothes, I guess, and so I would just silk screen t-shirts and even pants and just make my own art and kind of try to be cool on a limited budget by being unique. And so used my dad's silk screen to make slogans, to make artwork on my shirts, and yeah, it started there.
Wow. And when did it hit you that this might be me, this is my niche?
I was always attracted to music, but I couldn't play. I didn't have the patience to learn music, even though my brother and sister did. And I had friends in bands, garage bands, local, just small things and parties. And I started doing flyers for my friends' bands, and it kind of took off from there. And it was cool to just do a little drawing and then seeing it like handed out at school and seeing it put up on little telephone poles in the neighborhood, and then kind of like that. And it just, I didn't really think that was something I was going to do as a profession, but I've always, even my early drawings, when I drew stuff, I incorporated text into it, so I think there was always something there.
I would love if you kind of take us through the process, right from the phone call from the band or the manager, whoever calls you, and then the inspiration. Maybe there's even one work you could refer to.
Well, I mean, every job is different, but basically I get contacted by a band, and they need artwork right away. The deadline's always fast approaching, and I think I've become so used to working with deadlines that's, if there isn't one, it's hard to get work done, but kind of the adrenaline kicks in, and most of the time they just say, do something our fan base will like, so they don't really give me any guidance, and that's kind of what's exciting too, is I get to come up with whatever my own interpretation is. So I listen to the music, kind of, most of the time I go to sleep and just like in the evening, and then have a dream and wake up with an idea the next day, and hopefully run with that first idea. And so I like to have just a vague idea, and then it kind of comes out as I draw it. And so I'm saving all the excitement, all the energy for the finished piece.
And you mentioned appealing to the band's fan base, but you have an incredibly loyal fan base, and you have a very personal connection with your fans. I'd love you to tell us about that. You even say in the book you can email me, which I love that too.
Thanks. Well, speaking of email, I think the internet has made things more democratic. I mean, I started doing it before the internet was popular, going way back, and about 18 years ago, and it was different back then. It was lots of making catalogs, sending them to record companies, sending them to galleries, trying to get work, and then trying to show work. And the internet has made everything much more accessible, so I can have direct relationships with strangers, with fans, with friends, yeah, there's instant feedback. Like sometimes I'll even post a sketch online saying this is something I'm working with, and then some fan will say like, oh, wouldn't that be cool if this particular piece glowed in the dark? And then I'm thinking, oh, that's a good idea. So, unknowingly, people are actually sometimes giving me ideas, and there's this just exchange, and, when you're dealing with the internet, you have people that like your stuff, and there's people that anonymously can hate your stuff, and that's all part of the territory, and it's all good. So
Yeah. And glowing in the dark. Actually, your book cover glows in the dark.
that's true. That's my favorite part.
It's kind of my favorite part too. Actually, it reminded me.
Inside's pretty good too.
Yeah, the inside is very good. In fact, maybe we'll just talk about that now because this is a 20-year look back at your work. Not all inclusive, but an amazing, amazing look at your work. And actually, I was thinking today, can you even believe we're saying 20 years?
Oh, I mean, I started. I started young because I've always liked music and posters. And in my dad's art studio, he had old opera posters and old 60s posters. And of all the different types of art he had, I always gravitated towards that stuff. And it just one job led to another. There was a time where I was typecast. I came from doing like punk rock flyers to then, leveraging one job leading to another, and then getting some jobs doing stuff for the Black Crowes and Blues Traveler and Neil Young, and then being kind of typecast as that hippie guy. So then the clubs and the places I was working for are like, oh yeah, you're the hippie guy. We're looking for punk stuff. And I'm like, no, I love it all. I do it all. I mean, I think people have different moods, and why can't people listen to different music? The same person. And so there was a time where I was kind of typecast as the hippie artist, but I have a lot of influences, and that's what keeps it interesting for me. And figuring out what to put in the book, what not to put in the book. But I think overall it came out pretty cool. It's something I'm proud of.
Should be. How hard was that decision process of what goes in and what doesn't?
I think the strategy was the hardest part. I had a friend who helped me put the book together named John Susoff, and it was his idea to say, and well, mine too, people don't care if it's in chronological order. People don't care if it's in alphabetical order. Let's break it up by themes. So I like robots, I like nature, so my friend John is like, let's do the book by themes. And then we saw what fit into different chapter themes, and then there were some really good pieces that couldn't fit into any of the, they'll be in the second book, It's a process. It's actually a lot different than putting a poster together. Because instead of a 3-week deadline, it was like 2-year project.
Yeah, people don't realize how much time goes into putting a book together, actually. And you actually included a little copy of a robot picture you drew when you were little, too. It's cute. Very nice.
That's the one typo in the book, because I think it says that I drew that at age 7, but my mom said I actually drew that at age 6. So I think that's was my creative peak, because there was much more freedom back then to just draw whatever, and now I'm kind of more rigid in my thinking in a way. So.
But you're open in your medium. You put things on copper. You die cast things. You put things on acrylic. When did you start doing that? And what made you say, yeah, I could do that with my work?
I think, again, being exposed to all the different types of art as a kid, and all the different types of things that my dad did in the art studio, I thought, now that I've done silk screens for a long time and done hundreds of silk screens, what else can I do to still be true to the nature of a poster? They could still be put on a wall. It could still be used to advertise, and still be sold at a concert. And all the, what is a poster, but how to now make it different in a way. So burning them, embossing them, and laser cutting them, and those are all just elements of things I was exposed to in the art studio. Trying to sneak it into my poster work.
Yeah, and helps you do another thing you're trying to do, which is to take something that isn't permanent, more permanent.
Right. I think for me, when I do a poster, for better or for worse, I like to picture it on my own wall as a piece of art. And so I'm investing a lot of energy to give permanence to something that has the expiration date printed right on it.
So how do you describe your work?
Well, I try to let the art speak for itself, and people can judge it or interpret it however they want. But I look at it as art, and not just a poster, not just advertising.
One more thing I want to touch on before you go is your political statements that you make in your artwork, and why is that important to you?
I think for different reasons. I mean, on the larger scale, you have, corporate media. You have big budget. You have television. You have billboards. You're being bombarded all the time. And poster art belongs more to street art. It's more of a populist people's art, and so it's a way to make something handcrafted, whether it's just a rock poster or it's a political poster. I think they have similar roots, and it's a good way to kind of for me, it's kind of like another way to get my message out through through whatever I'm doing. Even if I wasn't doing rock posters, I always have this kind of social perspective that I'm trying to just put in whatever work I do, and I just found it works just as well for putting messages in posters, in rock posters.
So your work with Erica Badu is amazing. You guys have a special relationship.
We do. I've been working with Erica for I think eight years perhaps. And she called me one day and said she was flipping through a book, a graphic design and art book, a music book, and she came across some of my poster work out of all the other things in the book, and she just said, "You're my guy." And she's like, I knew, she's like, "You get me." And she's flown me to Dallas and cooked me vegetarian food. I've played with her kids. She's one of a kind. She's very unique. I think a lot of artists are almost like, to give them the benefit of the doubt, they're almost like kids in a candy store. Like they see my art or any other poster artist's work, and they go like, "This is great," and they always say, "We're going to use you again." But then there's so many artists that they like that they move on to someone else. But Erica is very loyal. Her and I, we really click. It's hard to explain it, but the first time I met her, I just felt this sense of like, I need to make art for this lady. She is cool. And the next day I came home and I just drew something and sent it to her. I just felt compelled to do that. I've never had that feeling before. And now, years later, we've kind of settled into this cool relationship. And she was, a couple of months ago, she calls me and she said, "I need to write a song. Why don't you draw a picture so I can write a song about it?" And I said, "That's crazy. I don't work that way. You're supposed to write the song, and then I'm supposed to get ideas of what to draw." So it's kind of a real special relationship, and I just feel really, really lucky to work with her. I think she brings out the best in me. I mean, I just feel really comfortable with her, and it's great to have longevity with a performer.
Favorite piece?
Every piece is a love-hate relationship. I've said that before, and I always like to think my next piece is going to be my favorite. Because I got to always look forward. I got to, it's always fun for me, and when it's not fun, I guess I won't do it anymore. So I'm always looking for the next challenge, the next, experimental project.
Emek, thank you so much for taking time to be here today. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.